whatever program you're offering, you get an opportunity for the client to give you feedback when they've been at the club long enough to know what they're talking about. Way too often we ask these clients questions on their first day. Hey, are you likely to want to refer us to your friends or family so that we can get some more business straight away? How about we earn that business? How about we earn that right?
ABC Financial leads the health and fitness industry in software and payment processing solutions. If you want your business to thrive with the most advanced club management software, comprehensive payment processing, and customer service that is second to none, choose ABC Financial. Request a demo at www.abcfinancial.com. Welcome back to the FBP Intensives, brought to you by ABC Financial. This is a 4-part series where one expert guest presents on one key topic each week for 4 weeks. We are now into our final week, so if you missed any of the earlier episodes, then hit pause now, head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and select the tab called Intensive Series, and there you'll find all of the previous shows. Our first topic for the FBP Intensives is retention, and our special guest is Paul Brown. So far, we've spoken about what matters most when it comes to retention. Then Paul covered trends and traditions, retention in optional programs, and this week we discuss measures of success. A very warm welcome back, Paul.
Thank you very much, Chantel. It's great to be here one last time.
Paul, can you help our listeners understand some of those important markers for their business when it comes to retaining clients?
Absolutely, Chantel. Well, the first one I always go back to is the good old IRSA formula. IRSA, the International Health Rackets and Sports Clubs Association. Great friends of Face2Face, done a lot of work with them over many, many years. The annual retention formula thereof, how many members did you have in a particular month? How many did you have a year later? What was the actual volume of membership sales you made over that period? So if you start with a number that you had a year ago in January, you sold a bunch of memberships over that period, add those two numbers together, you'll end up with the total potential membership that club should have. Then you ask yourself the question, what percentage of those members are actually still financially available? So if you had 1,000 members this time last year, you've sold 500 memberships. Theoretically, you should have 1,500 members over that 12-month period. But of course, you've lost many. Maybe you're back to only 1,200 members. So you've lost 300, which is about 1/5 of your membership. Your retention's 80%. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad number because 78% tends to be our annual retention utopia. Must confess, in the current market, there's a lot more convenience clubs opening up, clubs kind of edging into each club's market. Therefore, we're seeing retention sitting around 70 to 74% in our good clubs, considerably lower in the clubs that are struggling. The second thing that we look at, and for me, more important, is the average lifespan of membership. I want to know for the club, what is the average length of membership that every single member has in that club? And then at cancellation, what was the average lifespan of that cancellation group? So if you looked at all the members who quit your club last month, go back and look at their join date, look at their expiration date. That'll give you how many months they stayed. Average that out. Is it 9 months? Is it 15 months? Is it 27 months? Is it 5 months? Whatever that number is, try to better it. And then if you can narrow that down to members who had a join date of inside the last 2 years, because clubs have been around for a long time, you can see the numbers being skewed by some of those real legacy members. And then finally, what percentage did not last 11 months in your club? That's a really good question to ask. Those members who you lost last month, how many of them joined and quit inside the same 11-month period? I choose 11 because a lot of clubs still offer 12-month contract memberships. Me personally, I don't need contracts to keep my wife around. I don't need contracts to keep my members around. They stay because they choose and they want to. But if you do have 12-month memberships, skew it out by saying, let's look at the 11-month attrition rate. Now we go to my next favorite one, the early mortality rate. Like for like, month for month, what percentage of our members stayed for 1 month? What percentage of those same people they'd stayed for a second month? What percentage of those same people they'd stayed for a third month, 4 month? Look at the percentage drop off. So again, if we go back to May last year, and you might have signed up 100 members in May. Of those same 100 members, how many were still financial in June? How many were still financial in July? How many were still financial in August? Keep running that and you'll eventually come across what we call the cliff. Typically, it's 5 months after they join. See if I'm right, see if I'm wrong. It might be different in your club, but I guarantee you there will be a cliff. There will be a point where that number just jumps. It seems like everybody got off the boat at the same time. We see it as 5 months. Let me know how you go. And then, of course, you get to the bottom line. When someone does leave, when did they leave? How long were they there? when did they stop attending? What's the gap between their last visit and their date of quitting? Guarantee it won't be more than a couple of months if they don't have a contract in place. Why did they leave? What mood were they in? Who did they tell? And what did they tell them was their reason for quitting? They might tell you one thing, but tell their friends something very, very different. Of course, you want to know, is there anything you could have done in the beginning or in the past that would have kept them? And finally, can we do anything now to get them back? So, you can measure things, but just remember, you're talking about people, personalities, lives, and souls. Do whatever you can to find out why they gave up on you. It might help you save the next member. Now, then we go to proactive measures. I want to talk about measuring client independence, making sure that clients fall in love with your club because they love to exercise and they'd rather do it with you than anywhere else. Now, we have our face-to-face retention program, or in the UK, we call it Empower with our partners there. But bottom line is you need an onboarding program, whatever you call it, however you structure it. There needs to be a program to get members from joining your club into falling in love with it. Now, that should be a multiple one-on-one coaching session program. It should have systematic communications. I recommend paper-based and digital educational content. We're still mad fans of paper because paper is physical and tangible, but of course you want to be able to email or have digital content to show we are indeed in the current age. You've got to be able to guarantee the results. If you can't be certain that people going through your programs will get benefits, then there's no benefit in doing it at all. We can look people in the eye and say, you'll be a different person at the back end of this 4 to 6 week journey. Just trust us and go through the process. And I strongly recommend it's included in your membership. We've done several experiments around the world with some very good partners with very good intentions. And when we've offered the client an option to buy in or buy out, almost always the uptake is never high enough to really impact on the group-wide retention. It's when it's included in the membership that people go, well, I'm paying for a membership. This is part of what I do. I'll give it a crack. We get the maximum uptake, and therefore we have the maximum impact on the lifespan of our clients. And the final thing with guaranteeing results is that you've got to be able to not just show the physical benefits, because they take much longer. The best thing about coming to our clubs isn't how great you look, it's how great you feel. And I'll talk about some of those results very shortly. Then with that, you've got program KPIs. What are your enrollment rates? We typically get around 85 to 90% of all of our members around the world taking up our program. We then look at appointment show rates. We've got clubs that'll do 600-700 appointments in a month. We need to know that people are taking advantage of these appointments. Our benchmark is 85%. People out there right now shaking their heads saying impossible, can't be done. I'll give you a list of 100 clubs right now that'll tell you they're doing it on a daily, monthly, and weekly basis. Because when you've got a reason to show up, you'll find a way. When it's valuable to you, you'll find a way. When it's important to you, you'll find a way. Now, every program needs to have a graduation, a finalization, an achievement date. We monitor the graduation rates. Not everybody who starts this journey is going to finish it. Some people get to a point and they say, you know what, I've got as much help as I need, thanks very much. And after 2 or 3 weeks, they feel they've achieved that level of independence. Some will go all the way through the program, which in our case takes around 4 to 6 weeks. So again, you want to track how successful you are at getting people all the way through. And that's what we call our stages completed report. We know on average in every club we work with, the average member gets 3.5 appointments. Some are taking 5, 6, 7, 8 over the year. Some are only taking 1 or 2 at the beginning. But we know that if we can get 3.5 appointments per member, which are only 30 minutes, by the way, we have a significant impact on the engagement level with our clients, their confidence, their exercise working out habits, the way they feel about the club. And that gives us an opportunity now to measure workout adherence. We set them workout targets and we track and make sure that they stick to those targets. That good old FITT principle, frequency, intensity, time and type. Well, frequency is how often you're doing your cardio and how often you're doing your weights each week. We set our clients a goal. Could be twice a week for the weights, 2 or 3 times a week for cardio, including their sports outdoors. So maybe they're only in the club 2 or 3 times a week. They get value from that. And then we hold them accountable to achieve that frequency target. We monitor with them. Of course, you've got software that can do that. We have other means as well within the club to instantly identify our clients. And if you don't monitor frequency, it's really hard to monitor the next critical number, change in frequency. So Chantel, if you're working at an average of 4 times a week for 5 months in a row and that suddenly drops to once a week for a month, we know straight away there's something wrong. Or if you're a 3 time a week person and that drops to once a week, we know there's something wrong. Anytime we see a major change in frequency of attendance, we flag that as an early warning sign, and there might be something about this client's happiness or success in the club. We want to find out what we can do about it. So that's just a few of the proactive measures that we believe you can do to predict and enhance the longevity of a client by engaging, getting them comfortable, and getting them related into the club.
Okay, Paul. So marker number 1 was reactive measures. Number 2 was proactive measures. What's number 3?
Number 3 is the one that gets the clients the most excited, and that is their results and feedback. You know, when I give my talks around the world, I love to ask the audience, did you measure any type of fitness evaluations on your members when they joined in January? They all joined up with these New Year's resolutions, these promises to do this and become this. Did you measure any of their starting points? And almost always the audience very enthusiastically raises their hand and says, yes, we did. We do evaluations. We have personal trainers are doing assessments and so forth. And then I ask the very same question, did you recheck them? How many of those since January, what we're now, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 months later, how many of those members have actually had those same measurements, those same benchmarks revisited to show the before and after? And unfortunately, the room usually goes very quiet at that point because they know it's just not happening. They know that's not their main objective, which is kind of weird because it's the client's main objective. It's the whole motivation for the client to come in, not to know how unfit they were at the beginning, but to know what they achieve after their efforts. So we're massive on results. So the first measurement we go for is we want to do the mindset of the client. I call this the savvy scale. You might remember in my first presentation with you guys, we talked about the checks, the confidence level of a club. Are they confident enough to train in the club without feeling intimidated? Habit. Do they work out often enough to see results and get value for money? Enjoyment. Do they like it, not avoid it and not get bored? Challenge. Do they know how to push themselves at just the right intensity level to not risk an injury, but at the same time, get those results? Knowledge. Do they not just know what to do, but why to do it? Why in a way that motivates them to keep pushing through even when they kind of wish they could be elsewhere? And social. Does it feel like the place to be? We measure this, and we've learned over the years on these scales, there's a certain tipping point. If we can get them to a certain level on a scaling, we know that they are most likely going to be here for months or years. Here's an interesting fact. 41% of our new members in all of our clubs that we benchmark this on, only 41% fall above that savvy threshold when they first join. 4 to 5 weeks later, when we go to the same benchmarks again, that number's gone up to 78%. That's kind of like saying, all the teenagers in this town, only 40% knew how to drive a car. We put them through a driving course and now nearly 80% can. We've reduced the risk of accidents tremendously. Still not a good idea to get on the road when those other 20% are out there, but you get the idea. Right, the next measurements we do is the anthropometrical measurements. These, of course, are the ones that we mostly talk about with our clients in our marketing. Looking good, trimming up, building those biceps and so forth. We don't necessarily make a massive deal about it, but we do believe you've got to appeal to the vanity goals of our clients initially. They come for vanity, they stay for health. So let's measure them. Let's measure their waist, let's measure their arms, let's measure their thighs. It's interesting to notice that we lose on average 1 inch or 2.5 centimetres off their waist in around 30 days. That's a significant improvement. That's at least 1 notch on the belt buckle. Certainly worth knowing. We see even greater measurements on those with greater need, but that's the average. Then we get into the feel-good factor. The best thing about our gyms is not how great our members look. It's how great we help them feel. We've seen an average improvement of 65% across the 5 benchmarks of energy levels, coping with stress, quality of sleep, body image, and just feeling good about yourself. Typically, scores of a 3 out of 10 become a 7. Typically, scores of a 5 become an 8. And typically, scores of 7 become a 9 or 10. It completely changes the focus of why they train. When they make that connection between how they feel and their new active lifestyle, you're getting them into that identity. You're getting to that point when they go, I am fit, I am active because I feel like this and always want to. And then you start to get the feedback from the client. So the next thing we benchmark is our 30-day feedback sheet covers, are you happy with the cleanliness of the club? Are we friendly enough? Do we have the right equipment for you? Were you happy with your program? Were the classes right for you? Were we punctual with our services? And what do you think of the information resources we gave you digitally and also in paper-based? And then which of the stages have we offered you so far in our programs that you've enjoyed the most? And which ones have you maybe not enjoyed the most? Which ones you enjoyed the least so we can do a better job of being better at it? What I'm trying to say here, Chantel, is whatever program you're offering, you get an opportunity for the client to give you feedback when they've been at the club long enough to know what they're talking about. Way too often we ask these clients questions on their first day. Hey, are you likely to want to refer us to your friends or family so that we can get some more business right away? How about we earn that business? How about we earn that right? And we do. We ask the question. Way back in 2003, I was in Milan, Italy with the great John McCarthy, a very dear friend of mine, founding executive director of URSA. John told me, he said, Paul, I'm doing some research for a book I'm going to write for URSA, and I'm trying to understand as much about retention as possible. So he interviewed me. At the same time, he shared with me that he'd come across a question that he believed was the defining question you need to know the answer to, whether a client's going to stick around or not. And guess what? That was the question we now know is the Net Promoter Score. It is, how likely are you to refer us to your friends and family on a scale of 0 to 10? Now, there's all sorts of formulas that come out of that. We've been asking that question in our program ever since 2003, ever since my friend John introduced me to it. And I don't mind telling you, Chantel, get the program right, you almost always get a 10. Almost always get a 10.
Paul, over the last 4 weeks, you have been tremendously generous in sharing this information with us. To finish off today with our very last episode, can you give us a quick summary that we've gone through over the past 4 weeks? A quick breakaway before we hear that summary from Paul. This past 4 weeks, we've been able to bring you the intensive series because of the wonderful support of our podcast partner, ABC Financial. So I invited them on the show to say a big thank you and also to get an update on what's coming up for them in the next few months. Take a listen. Today, I am chatting to Steve Ayres, the Chief Revenue Officer of ABC Financial. Hey, Steve, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. And while I've got you on the line, I want to say thank you so much to yourself and Jennifer and all of the team at ABC Financial for supporting our intensive series.
Oh, it's our pleasure. We're very excited about that series, and we're just glad to be a small part of it.
Oh, well, we're really grateful for your support. So, look, I wanted to get you on the line today to have a bit of an update on what's happening with ABC Financial. Do you want to give us a bit of a news update?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff coming from ABC. We're excited. A couple of things, especially from an international perspective. We are launching now currently in Mexico, and in the next month or 60 days, we're going to be launching in Spain as well. And hopefully from Spain, that'll allow us to branch out to the other European countries. So we're very excited about our opportunities internationally and domestically as well. So we're very excited there. And from a technology perspective, there's some good releases coming out. One of those is what we call cross-club services, where multi-club operators can actually sell services in one club and they can be redeemed in another club. It allows for the accounting reconciliation on the back end. And so we're very excited about that.
You've also got quite a busy events schedule coming up over the next couple of months. Do you want to tell us where ABC Financial are going to be?
Yeah, we do. September and October is very big for us and the fitness industry in general. Early September, we'll be at the World Gym Convention in Vegas. Right after that, we follow up with the Club Solutions Leadership Retreat down in Texas, which then rolls right into the Gold's Gym Owners Conference in New York City, and then followed up by the big show with Club Industry and in early October in wonderful Chicago.
Well, that is a pretty huge schedule coming up, and I'm going to be catching up with you at Club Industry in October, so I'm really excited about that. So once again, Steve, thank you so much for the support that you give the show and the intensive series. It has been such a great way to kick off our very first intensives with those retention series with Paul Brown. So thank you very much for all of your support, and thanks for dropping by today and giving us an update on what's happening with ABC Financial.
Oh, thank you. It's always great to catch up with you guys. We appreciate everything you do for us and the industry.
Thank you so much, Steve. Let's transition back to Paul Brown now with a summary of the Retention Intensive series.
Well, in week one, we talked about trends and traditions. We talk about what new and where we've come from. And it kind of turns out we've come full circle. It seems like at the beginning was all about people just buddying up and training with one another. Then we got a little bit technical and started to be very specific about the style of coaching we offered. Then the clubs grew and it became the battle of the big box. Then we started to shrink them. We started to make smaller clubs and make them more accessible and convenient. And some people have actually gone to the point of taking staff away to try to minimize the cost implication. You know what? We've realized that people matter. So we've come full circle and we're seeing now a resurgence in the kind of enthusiasm that our staff can offer, bringing the enthusiasm out in our clients. In episode 2, we called it Innovations in Technology. So we spoke about the new emerging trends, and we definitely don't want to ignore the fact that there's some wonderful technological advances we should always be taking advantage of. However, I think the summary was this: we're using technology best when we employ it to track, to entertain, and to provide feedback to our clients. But when it comes to coaching and education, we require humans to provide the help. I keep saying you don't learn to drive a car by email. And it's the people in your clubs that make the difference. They're the ones that are the great role models. They have the empathy. They have the eyes and the teeth and those beautiful smiles. They have the ears to listen. And then they have the expertise. They have the track record behind them. They're able to light a candle for all the others who want to see. So the third element then is having the right programs in place to deliver this retention improvement. So these programs are very much geared around making sure we establish where the client is now, where they want to be in the future. We take some benchmarks of their starting point, individualize them a program, perfect and fine-tune that program, help them do well outside the club with lifestyle choices like eating habits, and then show them in a very timely manner that the results are worth the effort. And results aren't just the physical look at me now results. Best thing about our clubs isn't how great our clients look, it's how great they feel. So we benchmark their mindset, we benchmark some physical measurements, and most importantly, we benchmark how they feel. We show them those improvements within a 4 to 6 week period, get them all excited about what they've achieved so far, and then keep mixing it up so they never get bored or stuck in a rut. And then finally, how to measure this, how to measure the uptake, making sure we get enough of our clients participating to actually influence our membership and have the real retention goals achieved that we're after. We talk about measuring the participation through the program, appointment show rates, graduation rates, and then the kind of results that the clients are achieving. Now, I didn't mention this, but I want to make this very, very important. When we get these results, we also seek permission from the clients to share it. This feeds your marketing, being able to tell the world that you're a club that actually delivers on their promise. And then going back to the people you report to. Maybe you've got a boss at a head office needs to know. Maybe you operate a leisure centre and you want to show the contract partners what you've achieved. Or maybe you just want to go back to the community that you serve and say, hey, this is why we're here. Support us because we're here to support you. These are the final measures that show that all the time and energy investment you put in your members is paying dividends, and they should never, ever go anywhere else but stay a member for life.
Paul, the information you've shared over these past 4 weeks has been tremendously valuable. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your experience with the listeners of the show. If people want to chat to you further, if they'd like to know more about face-to-face retention, how should they contact you?
Well, I'd love to hear from the listeners out there on what they're doing well. Today I've shared some of my ideas, and over the last few weeks you've been very kind to let me purge some of my thoughts, but I'm equally a student of retention as much as a teacher. So I would love to hear from other club operators out there. What are they doing well? Maybe even challenge some of the things I said. I'd be open for that dialogue. So you know what? Email. Shoot me an email. I'll give you my personal email address. Bit of a long one. Paul B, Paulb, at Face2Face Retention. That's face number 2, face retention.com. Shoot me an email. Tell me what's on your mind. I'd love to connect with you. I promise you one thing, I won't be trying to sell you stuff. We're kind of busy right now, but I'd love to make some more friends out there in the fitness industry.
Paul, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for your time once again, and we will make sure we put your email address in the show notes for the Intensive Retention series. Thank you once again, Mr. Retention, Paul Brown.
Thank you, Chantel, and goodbye to you and all your listeners.
The intensive series wouldn't be possible without the support of our podcast partner, ABC Financial. ABC Financial leads the health and fitness industry in software and payment processing solutions. If you want your business to thrive with the most advanced club management software, comprehensive payment processing, and customer service that is second to none, choose ABC Financial. You can request a demo at www.abcfinancial.com. Also, a reminder that thanks to our foundation partner, Active Management, you can now download a transcription of every single show in the intensive series. Just go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, click on the tab at the top of the page called Intensive Series, then scroll down and press the button that says Access the transcription of this interview. It is that easy. That concludes our first ever FBP Intensive series. The next edition of the series will be released in October, and our focus is sales. Our special guest is the one and only Casey Conrad. Make sure you keep listening to the weekly episodes of the Fitness Business Podcast to hear when the Sales Intensive series kicks off. I'm your host, Chantal. Thank you for being part of the FBP Intensive series.